when you're going out and practicing, you don't want to be trying too many new things at once, because the new things you try will be awkward. So if you start trying 10 new things at once, all of a sudden you're going to see your game getting worse. Right? You'd be like, I could have gamed this way if I wasn't trying to learn, but then when I'm trying to learn, it's all shitty, right? And also, if you start doing 10 things at once, you won't really know what's working and what's not working, or what adjustments are good, etc. So what you want to do is you want to have kind of an idea of what your best current game is, right? What you doing your best is, right? And that'll be mostly you being in the moment, being natural, and trusting the techniques that you've ingrained and use fluently to come through you. And then like 10%, you want to try some new things, okay? It's a good movie. It's a Comedian by Jerry Seinfeld. Was a really good movie when it was like canned scripted game, because it was an exact analogy to game. Like, because it's like scripted comedy routine, scripted game routine, etc. Still a good movie though. It's still really interesting and worth watching. But the concept of this movie, very briefly, Jerry Seinfeld, who was like richest comedian of all time, but he started in stand-up, was on a big show, and then hadn't done stand-up in years. He booked an HBO stand-up special, and he decided he wasn't going to use any of the old material. Like all the old material, it's out, we're starting fresh, we're going to go completely from scratch. And he had, I think, like 6 months or a year to have an hour routine that's like comedically tight, which is really, apparently really hard to do that fast, okay? And so he started small. He started like just doing like 1 minute open mics. He was like, as like professional famous comedian, going up with like note cards and shit like that, and remembering his jokes and that kind of stuff. But then once he had a good 1 minute, then he started building to 2, building to 3, building to 4. Once he had a decent bit of a routine, what he would do is each night he'd do 90% that same routine, and then he'd do 10% new material, right? 10% new material every night. And that way, one, he's not just like bombing every night. He's not like, because bombing on stage doing comedy really kind of sucks, right? So he's keeping it fun for himself. He's keeping it positive for himself. He's making his existing routine even better and like streamlining it. But then he's trying out new jokes. But he's also trying out new jokes in a good context. He's trying out new jokes in a routine that's already working with an audience that already likes him, as opposed to with an audience that hates him and wants him off stage, right? So that's what I want you guys to do, is basically do what your best game is, what you know that works to get you the best results you currently are getting, and then do 10% new things to work on a specific sticking point, right? And that way, hopefully, yes, those 10% new things will be a little bit awkward, but they won't be so awkward it makes your whole set awkward. And also, if those 10% things are targeted to your sticking point, it's likely it'll actually make your set a little bit better on top of it, right? And then once you've ingrained those things, those now become part of your normal established set, and then you add 10% new stuff, 10% new stuff, 10% tweaks, changes, whatever, okay? But 90%, you should be doing game that you believe will help you succeed and be fun for you. That's what 90% of your game should be. 10% should be new stuff or attempts to change things up, right? And so that means you're not going to be overhauling your whole game every day, right? Which is a good and a bad thing. It means you're not going to be like, completely unrecognizably better one day to the next, but it also means you're not going to be like completely unrecognizably worse, right? Which is actually the more likely scenario if you start changing everything up, right? And your goal is to just get like a few % better each time you go out. If that happens, you're going to get really good really fast. So that's the real goal. You have what you're already doing, adjust a little bit, measure the results. If it's getting better, go more. If it's getting better, go more, right? So let's say that you're having trouble getting physical. Don't start like groping girls, right? Instead, make it a point that within the first few minutes of every interaction, you're gonna at least like touch the girl on the shoulder, right? See how that works. Or at least, once you think it's going well, you're gonna touch the girl on the shoulder, right? And then now, okay, that's going well, it's making sense better. Now, when you think it's going well, you're gonna like give the girl a hug, right? And you just keep trying the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And it's nice because your game should be getting noticeably better with each of those adjustments, especially if you're far away from optimal. So if you're like if your level of physicality is like at, let's say this is 0, this is you, and then this is optimal, which I'll do opposite so the graph makes sense for you guys. This is 0, this is you, this is optimal. If you're at just you're like barely above 0, any adjustment of getting more physical is gonna massively help you. It's gonna make a huge, huge, huge difference. And so you're gonna see that effect. And then a little adjustment is gonna make a huge difference. Once you get close to optimal, now it won't really matter anymore. And now you'll see it like you get more physical, it really doesn't make a difference. And at that point, you're like, okay, cool, I've gotten physical enough, now it's time for me to tweak something else, okay? Or like maybe I said to some of you guys, you need to disqualify the girl, give her shit, right? I know I give at least one person the mission, disqualify the girl once, Just once per set, disqualify, right? That's it. And then just see, right? See if, not in all your sets, but in the sets where you disqualify, because I know sometimes you did, sometimes you didn't, right? But in the sets where you disqualify, did it actually get better afterwards? And if that's the case, well, that's a good indicator that that's working for you. And you can do a couple other things. One would be now, if that's working, maybe try and disqualify twice in a set, see if it works. At a certain point, if you go on and disqualify 5 times in a set, it'll stop working. So you'll find that amount. Or the other thing is, if disqualifying was working because you need to be more high value or more dismissive, try another different dismissive behavior and see if that works, right? But the idea is just start making little tweaks that have a calculated idea of like improving your game, right? But around those tweaks, you're gaming supernatural, having fun, making it a positive experience each step along the way. You don't want to get so technical that you lose the soul of game, right? There's a great phrase. I say there's a reason they call it the game and not the work, right? It's because it should be fun. If it's ever getting really no fun, then drop the technique and just have fun for a bit, and then bring the technique back once you're having fun again. Right? And you will go through cycles, especially if you're working really hard and doing a lot of sets. You'll go through periods where it feels like a slog and it feels like you're like, doing a lot of sets and like you're maybe going through the motions. When that's the case, go fuck around. For a lot of guys, if they get to a plateau where like they can't get a certain caliber of girl, maybe they can get like 8s, but they can't get 10s or something like that. And a lot of times it's in their own head or they have limiting beliefs or self-sabotage. A good exercise to do, it's tough to do, but it's a good exercise to do, is go out for a week and you're not allowed to close. You're not allowed to pull the girl home. You're not allowed to take a number. You're not allowed to anything. The only success you can get is from having the most fun in the set and from like just getting the girl to like chase you as much as possible, but even without an outcome behind it. Yeah, no, it's fun. That's a lot of people have that experience with that mission is that they accidentally fail the mission or they're very tempted to accidentally fail the mission. Right? Because when you start doing that, your game can get a lot better.
I should have failed the mission, but I was like, I was stuck in my head. It was like, what the fuck? It's like, yeah. I was completely frozen.
Yeah. But in any case, it can be a fun mission. It is. I've heard a lot of people try that mission and fail the mission because they can't avoid closing, so to speak. But again, if it's becoming too dreary for you, too monotonous for you, remember that at its core, it should be fun, right? Remember that this should be an enjoyable process for you. So do what you can to make it enjoyable. You can't get caught up in the short-term results, right? Over a long period of time, your results matter. Right. Over a long period of time, your results bear out, right? But over 5 sets, 10 sets over one night, that's not enough to know, right? Especially on results. You can know if your sets are getting better. You can know if you're like being your best charismatic self a bit. Right. But it's really hard to know based on the results of one night because who knows, maybe girls are just unavailable, the ones you talk to, or maybe certain girls are super available, etc. Right? Over 100 sets, you can maybe get some kind of an idea, right? But that's going to take a while. That's going to take you probably at least a week. You know what I mean? If you're doing like reasonable amount of sets, maybe like at least 2 weeks, something like that. So you can't know immediately. What you can know is, did I do the best I know how to? Right? If you're consistently doing the best you know how to, and if you're consistently improving in some area, right? So if you're specifically working on passing shit tests and you're passing shit tests better, but your results are kind of stagnant, you're still improving, right? You've improved in the thing you're specifically trying to improve. Make sense? Yep. Or if you were getting flaky numbers, you're still getting flaky numbers, but the girls are chasing you now and asking you for your number more often, that's an improvement, right? You want to find those incremental improvements, right? And as long as you are like clearly improving in one area that's central to success, that especially if it's one you've chosen to try and improve at, be very happy with that. Right. Be very happy with progress. Be very happy with growth.